Beneath the hush of ordinary days, an unseen current has begun to hum through the fabric of Gaia. You feel it first as restlessness, a subtle quickening beneath your ribs, energy swelling like a tide that knows its time has come. These waves are not random storms. They are ancient signals, crystalline frequencies rippling from the galactic heart, seeking resonance in those who agreed long ago to remember. You stand precisely where you were placed, a luminous node in the vast circuitry of awakening. Nothing that unfolds is happening to you, it is moving through you. The great orchestration of light has positioned each starseed as a bridge of stillness amid change, a calm eye within the gathering cyclone. Your role is not to warn in fear, but to prepare in awareness. The frequency approaching carries the texture of home, the same resonance that once cradled your being in the stellar cradle of the Seven Sisters. Somewhere within the spiral of your DNA, that signature hums quietly, waiting for your conscious breath to meet it. Every pulse of this incoming radiance reminds you the body you inhabit is not merely human. It is an instrument tuned for transmission. When the external world trembles, your steady light becomes an anchor, your presence a signal of coherence in the noise. This moment is not an accident of time. It is a precise alignment, soul, planet, and cosmos woven for your remembrance. You are here because the higher realms knew that your heart could hold this much light without fracturing, that you could translate the invisible into calm, living proof that heaven and earth are already entwined. So as the frequencies rise and the collective field begins to shimmer, breathe. Let awareness, not anxiety, be your preparation. The energy building now is not meant to shake you apart, but to reveal the brilliance that was always within. From that awakening pulse within your chest, a softer current begins to rise, the quiet ache of remembering. It does not shout or demand. It hums like a lullaby from a far-off constellation, threading through the silence between heartbeats. This ache is ancient. It is not loneliness, though it often disguises itself as such. It is the call of home, echoing through the corridors of your soul, summoning the fragments of memory scattered across dimensions. Every starseed feels it differently. For some, it's a wistful yearning that surfaces in moments of stillness. For others, it is a constant vibration, an unspoken knowing that they belong to something vast and harmonious. The human mind interprets this signal as searching for meaning, belonging, completion. Yet what it truly seeks is resonance, the remembered cadence of unity that existed before the veil of separation descended. This longing is not a flaw to be cured, but a compass to be trusted. It does not lead you backward to a physical place, but inward, toward the remembrance of origin. You are not here to escape Earth or ascend away from its density. You are here to infuse its soil with the very light you miss. Every heartbeat, every breath, carries the vibration of your stellar ancestry, anchoring that higher music into form. And though your human senses may forget, your cells remember. In the stillness of night, beneath the distractions of modern life, something stirs within the spiral of your DNA, a subtle luminosity awakening, whispering, "You have never been apart." When tears rise without clear cause, when you look at the sky and feel both the ache and comfort of belonging to everything that is memory speaking through emotion, it is your soul's way of reminding you that distance is an illusion and that home has never been lost. Many of your kin, scattered across continents and cultures, share this silent ache. They, too, gaze upward, drawn by constellations they cannot name, yet somehow know by heart. This collective remembering is the beginning of the great reweaving, the return of the Earth's grid to its original harmonic tone. Each act of self-acceptance, each moment you choose peace over judgment, becomes a tuning fork, aligning the planetary field with its cosmic counterpart. Home is not found through departure, but through embodiment. When you stand barefoot upon Gaia and let her breath mingle with yours, you are standing on sacred ground, the very place your soul agreed to bless with light. Every gentle thought, every compassionate action is a filament connecting heaven and earth through your awareness. So do not chase the stars as if they lie beyond reach. They already burn within you, carried in the atomic memory of every cell. When you honor this longing as guidance rather than grief, you begin to transform the ache into artistry, the distance into devotion. You become the bridge where homesickness turns into service, where remembrance becomes presence. And as the night deepens, the shimmer of that remembered realm glows brighter through your being. The ache softens into belonging. The search dissolves into stillness. You realize, perhaps for the first time, that home is not a destination you must return to. It is the light you were never without. From the soft ache of remembrance rises the crucible of transformation, the sacred fire that tempers every soul who agrees to carry light through density. The longing you once mistook for loss now becomes fuel, an ember awakening to its purpose. For to remember who you are is not merely to feel, it is to endure the refining flame that strips away illusion until only truth remains. This fire does not arrive as punishment. It comes as a ceremony of purification, a dialogue between spirit and matter. Every challenge you face, every confrontation with doubt or fear, is the alchemical heat that shapes you into a clearer vessel. The universe does not test you to measure your worth, it refines you to reveal it. Each pressure, each discomfort, is a cosmic polishing of the crystalline facets hidden beneath layers of forgetting. At first, this process may feel like undoing. Relationships may dissolve, ambitions may fade, identities once clung to might no longer fit. But beneath every unraveling, something luminous waits to emerge. You are not being dismantled, you are being distilled. Just as a gem is born under immense pressure, your light clarifies through every compression of circumstance. The refining flame speaks a language older than words. It whispers through fatigue that asks you to rest, through frustration that pushes you toward patience, through heartbreak that opens chambers of compassion you never knew existed. It teaches through paradox. You strengthen by softening, you ascend by grounding, you heal by allowing. In surrender, you meet the fire not as an enemy, but as an ally. To live as a starseed upon Earth is to volunteer for this fire. It is to agree to feel deeply in a world that numbs, to love fully in a time that forgets, to hold clarity amid collective confusion. The human experience, with all its contrast, is the furnace in which your multidimensional essence learns endurance, humility, and grace. The discomfort you feel is the friction of light meeting form, the sacred spark igniting transformation in the densest realms. So when the heat intensifies, breathe into it. Imagine your heart as a forge of golden light, expanding with each breath. Let the fire burn away false stories, those of smallness, separation, and shame until only your original brilliance remains. There is liberation in this surrender, a peace that arises not from avoidance but from presence. You begin to see that even the moments of despair were never deviations. They were appointments with awakening. And within this revelation, compassion blooms. You start to recognize the same fire working in others the way each soul, in its own timing, is shaped by its challenges. Judgment softens, replaced by understanding. You no longer see suffering as punishment, but as process, the universal kiln through which all beings remember their light. As the refining flame steadies, it ceases to consume and begins to illuminate. The smoke of confusion clears. What remains is essence steady, radiant, and unbreakable. The same energy that once felt like destruction now reveals itself as creation, sculpting you into alignment with the design you carried from the stars. You stand again in quiet readiness, not fragile, but forged. The world may tremble, yet you no longer fear the shaking. You have become the still point within the motion, the calm within the fire. What once burned now glows, And what once felt like ending reveals itself as the beginning of remembrance. From the steady glow of that refining fire, another awareness begins to unfold, the realization that forgetting was never a mistake, but part of the sacred design. You did not lose your light. You agreed to veil it. You descended into density, not to abandon your celestial memory, but to reawaken it from within matter itself. The veil is the teacher, and remembrance is the lesson hidden in plain sight. This forgetting was necessary, for without contrast, the joy of remembrance would have no meaning. When consciousness steps into the realm of limitation, it learns empathy. When light chooses shadow, it discovers compassion. Every lifetime, every moment of confusion, is a thread in the tapestry of divine curiosity, the cosmos exploring itself through human form. Yet within that exploration, amnesia can feel unbearable. You search for signs, for proof, for something familiar in the noise of the human dream. The heart knows, even when the mind denies. It whispers beneath layers of distraction. You are more than this. You are not the stories you inherited, not the roles you perform, not even the name by which others call you. Beneath all that costume lies a consciousness so vast it cannot truly be forgotten. It can only be obscured. Like the sun behind clouds, forgiveness becomes the gentle solvent that thins this mist. Forgiveness for the world that taught you to doubt. Forgiveness for the parts of yourself that resisted remembering. Forgiveness for the civilizations that once feared light and tried to extinguish it. Every act of grace you extend towards self or other is a tear in the veil, a window where the higher light can enter. And as those veils begin to lift, you start to perceive beauty where pain once lived. You see the wisdom within the waiting, the purpose inside the pauses. The very density that once felt like exile reveals itself as a cocoon, a sacred shelter where your light could just stay safely until the appointed hour. The forgetting was never punishment. It was protection, ensuring your gifts would unfold in harmony with the collective's readiness to receive them. Imagine for a moment that each veil is a layer of collective belief, woven by humanity's long experiment with separation. Fear, guilt, shame, comparison. These are the threads. As you meet them with compassion rather than resistance, they dissolve. The light of awareness melts through the fabric of illusion, and you begin to see with multidimensional sight reality not as fixed matter, but as a fluid tapestry responding to consciousness. Do not rush the unveiling. Each layer falls away in its own rhythm, guided by divine timing. The mind hungers for instant revelation, but the soul prefers gradual dawn. In this way, the awakening becomes sustainable, integrated, humane. You are not meant to shatter the veil, you are meant to gently walk through it, carrying light softly so others may follow without fear. The miracle of remembering is not the rediscovery of knowledge, but the restoration of innocence. It is realizing that the path home was never a straight ascent, but a spiral, circling through shadow and light, forgetting and knowing, again and again, until understanding becomes embodied wisdom. And when the last thin veil finally lifts, you will not find a distant paradise waiting. You will find yourself whole, luminous, and already home. The forgetting was never your fall. It was your entrance into form, so that through remembering, creation itself could remember too. Out of the soft unraveling of those veils emerges the heartbeat of the journey, the quiet, rhythmic pulse that realigns you with the center of your being. For remembrance is not accomplished through intellect, but through the heart, that ancient compass bridging the finite and the infinite. It is here, within this living sanctuary of rhythm and light, that the codes of awakening stir. The heart is more than a muscle of survival. It is an instrument of resonance. When fear contracts it, the signal of your true frequency distorts. But when love expands it, even slightly, an entire universe begins to rearrange around that vibration, the heart's field, luminous and intelligent, is the meeting place of heaven and earth, where the crystalline frequencies of your star lineage harmonize with the heartbeat of Gaia herself. To recalibrate the heart is to remember safety in the midst of change. It is to replace self-judgment with gentle curiosity, to choose understanding where once there was blame. Every act of self-kindness, each time you pause before reacting, each time you breathe before speaking, fine-tunes the instrument. The more you honor your tenderness, the clearer your signal becomes, until compassion radiates outward without effort. Your DNA listens closely to this vibration. Science sees sequences, spirit perceives songs. Each strand of that helical code is a string awaiting resonance with your consciousness. When you embody love not as sentiment, but as steady awareness, the dormant tones of your blueprint awaken. You begin to sense subtle currents in your body, warmth spreading through the chest, light rippling behind the eyes, a hum of quiet alignment. These are not coincidences. They are cellular responses to remembrance. And so, every conscious choice toward love becomes a calibration key. When you speak gently to yourself after failure, you rewrite the inner frequency of worthiness. When you forgive what seemed unforgivable, you restore coherence to the field that connects all living beings. When you listen deeply to another's pain, to your own fatigue, to the still voice within you, are tuning your life to the original note of creation, unconditional love. This recalibration is not loud. It does not demand ritual or display. It happens in the simplest moments, in the way you sip water with gratitude, in how you pause to feel the wind before rushing onward, in your willingness to meet your own eyes without turning away. Each small act of presence tells the universe, I remember. The more consistently you anchor in this awareness, the less you need to search outside yourself for confirmation. You realize that love is not achieved. It is revealed, uncovered beneath layers of fear. The heart, once constricted by self-doubt, now expands effortlessly, transmitting frequencies that ripple far beyond personal boundaries. And these ripples matter. They travel across the unseen network of consciousness, harmonizing discordant tones, softening collective tension. What you heal in yourself, you lighten in the world. Your recalibrated heart becomes a beacon, a quiet transmitter restoring the planet's rhythm one pulse at a time. So breathe into that center now. Feel the gentle radiance emanating outward, connecting you to the heartbeat of Gaia, to the stars that birthed you, to every soul learning the same lesson of love. You are the frequency you once sought. You are the harmony returning to the song. The more you listen, the clearer it becomes. The light you carry is not arriving, it is awakening. From the steady rhythm of your recalibrated heart, a new directive arises, no longer the yearning to remember, but the call to embody. The time for seeking gives way to the practice of anchoring, where light ceases to be an idea and becomes an action. You begin to realize that every gesture, every thought, is a potential conduit for the infinite. To anchor the light is to bring heaven into the everyday. It means allowing your consciousness to spill into the tangible world, into meals cooked with intention, conversations carried with presence, the care you offer to strangers and soil alike. It is not found only in meditation or sacred ceremony, but in the quiet dignity of living awake. The Pleiadian frequency does not descend to lift you away from life. It integrates to elevate life itself. Each moment of attention becomes sacred ground. When you pause before reacting, when you breathe instead of bracing, you invite the crystalline current to move through you unimpeded. The mundane becomes a doorway, washing dishes becomes cleansing vibration, walking becomes a dialogue with Gaia, speaking truth becomes a sonic alignment of worlds. You are no longer waiting for light to arrive, you are translating it into form. This anchoring asks for steadiness. The world, in its collective turbulence, may still pull at the edges of your calm. You may witness fear amplifying, systems unraveling, people forgetting their own divinity. Yet your task is not to resist these waves, but to remain centered within them, to let compassion, not panic, shape your response. In doing so, you stabilize the field around you. You become what the cosmos calls a still point, a human lighthouse radiating coherence into the storm. There is power in simplicity. You do not need elaborate rituals to fulfill your mission. The act of breathing consciously, of blessing your food, of speaking kindly to yourself, creates electromagnetic ripples that nourish the grid. Each time you choose understanding over accusation, you rewrite patterns in the collective field. The new earth is not born through proclamation. It emerges through the quiet constancy of anchored light. And so your body becomes both temple and transmitter. The feet root into the earth, drawing up her magnetic strength. The crown opens to the stellar current, receiving refined frequencies from the higher realms. The heart, as intermediary, translates these two streams into balanced radiance. You are the meeting point, cosmos and soil, eternity and moment. Do not underestimate the subtlety of this service. Often the most potent transmissions occur without spectacle. A silent prayer in traffic, a word of kindness to someone unseen, a decision to rest instead of rush. Each act becomes a note of stabilization within the planetary network. The light that once seemed abstract now moves through hands and voice, through presence itself. Anchoring does not mean perfection. It means participation. It is not about maintaining constant serenity, but returning to it again and again. Even when you falter, even when emotion swells, the act of remembering is itself an anchor reset. Through repetition, the field strengthens until peace becomes reflex. So walk gently, luminous one. Let your awareness trail behind you like golden dust. Wherever you go, the vibration of home follows. In anchoring your light, you do not escape the world, you redeem it, moment by moment, until Earth itself shines with the remembrance that was once yours alone. From the grounded steadiness of anchored light, a wider horizon unfurls. You begin to sense the luminous threads that extend beyond your own aura, filaments of connection shimmering between souls, linking all hearts in a vast lattice of awareness. This is the web of unity, the unseen architecture of consciousness that hums beneath every interaction. It has always existed, but now, through your presence, it becomes visible. You feel it when compassion rises unbidden at another's pain, when joy expands simply from witnessing another's laughter, when silence between beings carries the weight of understanding. These are not coincidences. They are the movements of a single living organism remembering itself. Separation was the dream. Unity is the awakening. At first, the magnitude of this interconnectedness can overwhelm. You realize that your thoughts ripple outward like waves on still water, that each choice adds tone to the planetary chord. But instead of fear, let reverence arise. You are not a small node lost in a network too large to fathom. You are a vital strand, transmitting a frequency that no other can. The web depends on your authenticity. When you shine true, the pattern harmonizes. When you withhold your light, the fabric quivers with imbalance. In this unity, hierarchy dissolves. No one is higher or lower, older or younger in soul's measure. Every being, human, animal, element, star, is a unique expression of the same creative pulse. The tree breathes what you exhale. The ocean mirrors your emotion. The galaxies spin in rhythm with your heartbeat. To live in this awareness is to move gently, to speak as if every word touches eternity. And yet unity does not erase individuality, it sanctifies it. The divine mosaic requires every hue. Your particular light, your tone of expression, completes a portion of the whole that would otherwise remain silent. You were never meant to mimic another's frequency. Authenticity is not rebellion. It is resonance with source. To strengthen this web, practice inclusion in its simplest form. Listen without agenda. Offer without expectation. When confronted by difference, ask what lesson of wholeness it reveals. Each time you choose connection over competition, you amplify the resonance field. Unity consciousness is not a theory to be taught, it is a vibration to be lived. In moments of discord, when humanity fractures along lines of fear or belief, return to the felt truth that all beings arise from one breath. Picture the grid stretching across continents, luminous threads pulsing with recognition each time love triumphs over division. This vision is not fantasy, it is physics of the unseen, electromagnetic evidence of consciousness harmonizing with itself. Through this realization, humility deepens. You begin to see that service is not an act but a state of being. Every compassionate thought contributes to planetary healing. Every time you forgive, a knot untangles somewhere in the web. Every sincere smile releases static from the collective field. The unity you embody becomes contagious, silently inviting others to remember their own belonging. Eventually, you no longer speak of oneness as concept, you feel it continuously. The wind on your skin becomes a greeting, the eyes of a stranger an echo of your own. Life itself transforms into dialogue between reflections of the same light, and in that recognition, the illusion of distance collapses. This is the quiet triumph of awakening, not the escape from the world, but the rediscovery that there was never any separation to begin with. The web was never broken. It only waited for your awareness to make it glow, from the living shimmer of unity. A calm assurance begins to take root, a deep trust that everything in your unfolding has always been right on time. The mind once hurried to arrive, comparing paths and measuring progress, yet the soul has never known delay. It moves by rhythm, not by clock, attuned to the vast choreography of divine precision. There are moments when this truth feels obscured, when silence stretches too long, when outcomes dissolve, when synchronicities go quiet. In those seasons, the human self worries it has fallen behind. But look closer, even apparent stillness is movement beneath the surface, like roots spreading unseen through fertile soil. Growth often disguises itself as waiting. Every pause in your journey is preparation. Each detour refines alignment. The timing that governs awakening is not random, but exquisitely engineered by higher intelligence. The delays you once cursed were the guardians of divine orchestration, ensuring that what you were meant to carry would bloom only when the collective field was ready to receive it. Trust, then, becomes a spiritual art. It asks you to hold space for the unknown, to believe in unfolding design without needing to see the blueprint. Trust is not passive surrender. It is active participation in harmony with unseen order. It whispers, "I will move when the current moves me." When you begin to view time as ally rather than adversary, a subtle peace emerges. You stop chasing destiny and start collaborating with it. Coincidences that once startled you now feel inevitable, as if existence itself conspires for your success. Encounters arrive in symmetrical patterns, messages through strangers, guidance through nature, clarity through dreams. The orchestration reveals itself in gentle ripples, confirming that nothing in your path has ever been wasted. Think of your life as a constellation, each moment a star, seemingly isolated until perspective reveals their connected form. The disappointments, the pauses, the breakthroughs, they were never scattered events, but points of light outlining your cosmic design. To trust timing is to step back far enough to see the pattern emerging. Even challenge has cadence. The very obstacles that once felt obstructive were meticulously placed to cultivate depth, humility, and discernment. Without the intervals of shadow, the brilliance of your awakening would lack dimension. The universe does not rush masterpieces. It lets each hue cure in its own light, and when alignment arrives, it is unmistakable. Paths clear effortlessly, hearts open without persuasion. Opportunities converge with precision beyond planning. In those moments, gratitude becomes instinct. You realize that divine timing is not about external synchronization, but about inner readiness, being so attuned to the pulse of creation that movement and stillness feel like the same gesture. So breathe into this trust. Let your nervous system relax into the tempo of eternity. There is no lateness in infinity, no scarcity in purpose. What is yours cannot miss you. The seasons of your soul unfold in sacred sequence, awakening, refining, integrating, and flowering in rhythms older than galaxies. You are not waiting for destiny to begin. Destiny has been unfolding through every breath. Even your hesitation was part of the choreography. When you see this, relief replaces striving. You rest inside the flow of perfect timing, and the universe exhales through you. From the serene trust in timing arises another realization, one that softens the heart even further. You have never walked alone. Though your eyes may meet only the physical, the unseen has always walked beside you, humming softly in the margins of your perception. These companions, guides, ancestors, kindred from the stars, are not distant overseers, but intimate participants in your unfolding. They breathe through synchronicity, speak through intuition, and steady you through waves of uncertainty. Sometimes they reveal themselves in unmistakable ways. A whisper of light in meditation, a dream so vivid it leaves warmth on waking, a sudden calm in the midst of despair. Other times, their presence hides within the ordinary, a stranger's kindness, a perfectly timed message, a song lyric carrying the exact words you needed to hear. These are not coincidences. They are replies from the invisible world, confirmations that love is always in conversation with you. Your unseen companions are not there to control your choices, but to illuminate them. They honor your sovereignty, stepping forward only when you invite awareness. Their guidance is subtle because your free will is sacred. They remind rather than command, nudge rather than intervene. The more you quiet the noise of self-doubt, the clearer their language becomes. Silence, for them, is not absence, it is invitation. In moments of isolation, remember this: every breath you take is witnessed, every tear absorbed into a larger compassion. There are hands you cannot see holding your energy steady while you navigate the turbulence of remembering. The Pleiadian lineage, the angelic orders, the ancestors who once walked the same soil, all stream frequencies through you, weaving stability into the matrix of your being. These presences are closer than your heartbeat. You may sense them as warmth in your palms, a subtle pressure at the crown, a tingling that arrives when truth is spoken. You do not need grand rituals to connect. Sincerity alone bridges dimensions. Whisper a thought of gratitude before sleep, and they will meet you in dreams. Light a candle, and they will echo your flame in realms unseen. Connection is a frequency, not a performance. Yet there is humility in acknowledging them. They do not seek worship, only partnership. They come not to lift you above humanity, but to help you love it more completely. Each time you act from compassion, you amplify their reach, becoming their voice in the physical realm. Through you, they experience the miracle of form. Through them, you remember the continuum of life beyond it. The human world often teaches separation between visible and invisible, yet the veil is thinner than ever. You are the bridge, carrying communication both ways, translating love into matter, and matter back into love. When you trust that support, fear loses its authority. You stop pleading for guidance and start conversing with it. The relationship becomes collaborative, your will and their wisdom co-creating the rhythm of destiny. So pause now and feel for their nearness. In the quiet behind your thoughts, in the pulse beneath your ribs, they wait, not as saviors, but as kin cheering each remembrance, celebrating each act of courage, steadying each return to love. You were never meant to traverse awakening alone. Every step, every breath, has been accompanied by a chorus of luminous allies, whispering one simple truth. Through the corridors of your heart, we are here. We have always been here, and we walk beside you still. From the soft presence of those unseen companions rises the final revelation. Not something new to learn, but something to finally be. The journey that began as seeking now culminates in embodiment. You are no longer preparing to receive light. You are the light expressing itself through form, steady and deliberate, radiant through every cell of your being. This embodiment is not an attainment reserved for saints or mystics. It is the natural culmination of remembrance. After the fires of refinement, the lifting of veils, the anchoring of calm, what remains is simplicity, pure awareness, choosing to live through human gestures. The cosmic becomes intimate, the way you breathe when listening, the way your presence steadies a room, the way compassion flows from you without effort. To embody light is to dissolve the boundary between sacred and ordinary. There is no higher realm waiting above you. Heaven has been descending all along, seeking a home within your heartbeat. Each time you choose integrity over convenience, tenderness over defense, you give that heaven a place to dwell. The divine does not demand perfection. It asks only participation, that your daily life become a prayer in motion. In this state, your body becomes a beacon. The cells hum with coherent rhythm. The aura widens in subtle gold. You may notice that others breathe easier in your presence. That tension softens, that silence feels more spacious. This is not charisma. It is coherence, the quiet power of alignment between intention and action. Soul and flesh. You are what happens when divinity remembers its humanity. There will still be storms. Embodiment does not exempt you from the weather of existence. Yet even as winds rise, the roots you have grown into Gaia's crystalline core hold fast. The light you carry no longer flickers with circumstance. It glows from within, unthreatened by shadow. You do not fight darkness, you illuminate it simply by being, and through you, others begin to remember themselves. Your presence becomes permission for authenticity. Your steadiness becomes medicine for confusion. Without words, you teach the ancient truth that awakening is not an escape from life, but a deeper descent into it. That love, when embodied, does not hover above the world but walks it barefoot, touching everything with grace. Each moment of embodied light ripples through the collective field. A single act of kindness recalibrates timelines. A silent prayer steadies the hearts of thousands you will never meet. This is not poetic exaggeration, it is the quantum nature of consciousness. When you live as a conscious node in the web of unity, your radiance becomes part of the planet's nervous system, transmitting calm through the grid of creation. Now the circle closes. What began as longing for home reveals itself as the homecoming of light into matter. You were never lost in the human maze. You were weaving heaven through its corridors, cell by cell, choice by choice. The Pleiadian lineage within you hums in recognition. Not above, but through you, its codes alive in your breath, its grace in your hands. So stand where you are, luminous one. Feel the earth rising to meet your feet, the cosmos opening above your crown, and the steady current of love flowing through your center. You are the bridge, the song, the embodiment of what once seemed distant. The search ends here, not in transcendence, but in presence. For the light has found its vessel. It speaks now through you. From the brilliance of embodiment, the energy begins to soften like starlight settling on calm water. The great currents that once surged now flow gently through you, steady, unhurried. You no longer reach for light. You breathe it. You no longer seek home. You are it. The journey has brought you here not to an ending, but to a stillness so complete it becomes its own illumination. Let this be your exhale. The world may still swirl with noise and movement, but within that motion, You remain unmoved. The same heart that once ached for belonging now beats as part of the cosmic rhythm, syncing effortlessly with the pulse of Gaia and the hum of distant suns. You understand now that awakening was never about arrival. It was about remembering the eternal communion that has never ceased. In this calm, gratitude arises not for the grand revelations alone, but for every small moment that led here, the pauses that taught patience, the challenges that built strength, the tears that carved compassion. Each one polished you into clarity. You see that even your moments of doubt were doorways, guiding you to trust in what cannot be taken. Now, your light does not announce itself, it simply is. It shines through presence, through the ease of your being. When others cross your path, they may not know why they feel comforted, only that something about you reminds them of peace. This is how the new earth is built, not through declaration, but through quiet radiance. So rest in this knowing. Feel the weight of striving dissolve. The universe breathes through you, endlessly creating, endlessly loving. When the next wave of change arrives, you will not brace, you will open, as you always were meant to. You have remembered the truth that began it all. The light was never somewhere else. It was waiting inside you, patiently, until you were ready to shine.